I'm Tabitha Williams, and welcome to What's Eating Harlem. We cover the most exciting community in the world. There's so much happening in Harlem. Let's get started. They're the most eclectic meat market in New York City. They cut their meats on hooks, and they wear derbies. It's called Shambles Meat Market, and they are right here in Harlem.
It's about culture at large, and we hope people find a link between, the culture that Chinese are creating and are influenced by, and what the historical stories are.
We visited the Museum of Chinese in America, located in Lower Manhattan, where we learned about New York City's Chinatown's rich Chinese American history. We found out the more things change, the more they remain the same. Renaissance to Renaissance. Our new series will cover the history of the Harlem Renaissance, starting in 1900 to today's emergence of a new Harlem Renaissance. And our fascinating historian, Lana Turner, will take us on this journey.
Let's think about Harlem and what's going on in Harlem as we know it. In 1775, the Fathers That Be did a survey of what they considered Harlem. I bet you will be a little surprised to know what Harlem was considered in 1775. Can you guess?
All that and more coming up next.
We trim everything out and into what essentially turns into our ground beef. It just looked like piles of bread on a table. It was just super strange. But then, of course, as I got used to everything, I can learn to pick out, oh, that's the ranch steak that comes from the tricep muscle and things like that. So it's very interesting to see where the animal comes from, how they were raised, the specific breed of animal, and what attributes it gives to that animal. If it comes out more marbled, if it comes out more lean, if it has a stronger flavor, a gamey flavor. Like a lot of these things that people don't get access to in a supermarket, you get to see firsthand here. My name is Justin Williams, and we're at Harlem Shambles. Shambles is an archaic term for butcher shop, and we decided to bring back the tradition of having whole animals being broken down into a customer specifications as needed.
When someone thinks of meat and purchasing meat, typically in New York, everyone thinks of the meatpacking district. Why was it important, or do you know why it was important to have the location here in Harlem?
Well, Harlem's a bit underserved as far as fresh meat is concerned. So we like to be able to provide local, non-GMO, non-antibiotic, no growth hormones, nothing bad going on with the meat to all the residents in Harlem, just to make sure that everybody can get everything that they need, keep them healthy, keep them fed at a good affordable price. They can purchase pork, beef, lamb, chicken on special request, venison, ducks, rabbit, pretty much most of the game meats that you can pretty much imagine. You have a special occasion coming up, we can pretty much do everything custom, especially since we work with the whole animal. Whatever your imagination is or whatever your food dream is, we can pretty much make it happen here.
What specific cuts can a person purchase?
Flank steak, skirt steak, bavette, ribeye, dry aging in-house, filet mignon, pork, pretty much pork belly, ham, bacon. We do everything. We try to take the whole animal and find new creative ways that people either haven't been exposed to and give them what they need, or no matter what your background is. Like people from different countries have different regional dishes that basically have to come from a specific cut that you can't typically find in the supermarket or your local grocery store. So based on a special request, we also do our sausages in-house, so we can pretty much make a custom sausage that you may have grown up having in Morocco, or if you were in the Philippines, you have this special sausage. We can pretty much create whatever you need. We also try to have a lot of sauces that are good for finishing, good for marinades. We try to make sure that whatever you need to do, you can come here and get it done. Right now, I'm pulling a cut off the shoulder called the Scotch tender. Despite its name, it's not the most tender cut, but it works very well as a dry roast. What you see here is a lot of marbling.
Okay.
I can see there's some fat, some meat, some fat, meat fat, and then it just keeps going on. So the more I get into it, the more I'll see and find out. And I think we're one of the few places in New York City that actually does all their butchery off of hooks.
And why is that important?
It's important because gravity helps the process in not being stressed out, because there's a lot of pulling, there's a lot of tension that you have to do. So it's pretty physically demanding, much less getting quite a large piece of meat onto a hook. So gravity tends to help us out in this situation. So right now I'm just making some cuts to free it off of the bone, then making another cut to expose what's inside. Now, as everything's freed off the bone, just need to apply some force. Pull. And here's my Scotch tender.
You two have to be some of the coolest butchers I've ever seen, especially styled with these derby hats like I'm wearing for myself. Can you explain the style and the reason?
Well, I guess most of it is trying to keep things traditional, keep it very presentable, keep it very upscale, just to make sure that we wear suits and ties while we do this. We're just trying to give our customers the aesthetic and the overall just utmost confidence that they're getting the best product possible. And I think it all goes along with it.
And of course, the derby also keeps the hair out of the food and the product.
The health department loves that part.
And can you tell me, what do you do with the scraps of the meat after you get your specific cut? What happens to the rest?
Well, the scraps eventually turn into our ground beef, our ground pork, and our ground lamb. We run a zero waste operation. Our bones are sold for us to make stocks with, and also for our customers to make stocks with. If a customer needs a piece of fat, if they're trying to fry something, we also grind up the fat for tallow, and we grind up our leaf lard for lard and render it so that customers just have it ready, easily available to purchase. The first thing consumers should look for is advice from the butcher. The butcher is the person who sees what the delivery is hands-on. They cut the meat, they get to inspect the quality, and they know what's good that day. So the best thing you can do is have a conversation and a rapport with your butcher so that you can know exactly what you're getting, and if you may be looking for the wrong thing, they can tell you exactly what you need.
stars tonight. We're lightning bolts in the sky, flashing with thunder.
Scene 103, take one.
I thought we'd be on the same page about this, and we're not.
How do I know the way I'm gonna respond to it?
I want you to get the vaccine because I want you to be safe.
What if you end up in the hospital? That's what I'm scared of.
If you was to die, man, that would literally kill me, man.
Can I hug you?
Yes. If it made you feel that way, bro, I'll probably do. I love you too.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the sisterhood of women in tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
We're outside the Museum of Chinese in America, a gem of knowledge in the heart of New York's Chinatown.
My name is Herb Tam. I'm the curator and director of exhibitions at the Museum of Chinese in America.
We're at the Museum of Chinese in America. Can you tell me where is it located and when was it founded?
Sure, the Museum of Chinese in America is located at 215 Center Street in Chinatown, Manhattan's Chinatown. It was founded in 1980, and it was founded because some people thought that, Chinatown's history is really important, but it was in danger of being lost because Chinatown in the 1970s and 80s was changing really fast. And a lot of the businesses that were really essential in the beginning stages of Chinatown's history were closing. Older folks were dying, and there wasn't family here to save their stories. So a group of young people decided that they should do it. They should document the history, and they started collecting all these things, stories, artifacts, images of Chinatown, and created a collection out of it. And from there, we grew into, a museum that today, we really try to tell those stories of Chinatown and Chinese in America and that history, but we also try to tell a cultural story. What is Chinese American life in America today and in its recent history, and sort of where is it going? And so we try to include a lot of things that we think people will engage with: art, music events, film events. So it's no longer just about history, but it's about culture at large, and we hope people find a link between the culture that Chinese are creating and are influenced by, and what the historical stories are with Chinese immigration and Chinese society in America.
Are we talking more so about the entrance into America through Ellis Island or Angel Island?
So this exhibition really deals with what happened at Angel Island. Angel Island was developed after the passage of the Exclusion Act, and it was a way to really check and restrict Chinese coming over here. So what you would have, and you can see back here, images of Angel Island here and here, where you're first given a sort of interview, oral examination. People would be asking you to, details about your life to make sure you are who you said you were. You were given a physical examination, to make sure you didn't have diseases, and so the whole procedure just, I think, made people who came through there feel like they weren't welcome, and I think that was the whole idea. And people were kept in detention for a long time while, the authorities were checking on your background, and essentially it was a jail for immigrants coming over.
Can you tell me more about this specific exhibit behind you?
So the exhibit that we're in right now is called With a Single Step, Stories in the Making of America, and it's essentially 170-year history of Chinese in America, and it starts with the time before Chinese were even here, before the 1850s, when there was this, attitude about Chinese culture, that it was very elevated. Things like silk, porcelain, teas are things people wanted, especially rich people in America, and they would trade for that in America. And a lot of the first people who were millionaires in America were made wealthy through trade with China. But then once Chinese people actually started coming here looking for gold and to work on the railroads in the 1850s and 1870s, then attitudes about Chinese culture started to change, and there was a very negative perception of Chinese as being, dirty, as being essentially all the same kind of people, very homogenous kind of perception of Chinese. And, eventually, Chinese were sort of targeted. In the 1870s, there was a lot of discussion about keeping Chinese out and limiting immigration in a very severe way. So, this exhibition deals with that and sort of what happens after, the 1870s, and especially after 1882 with the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act.
How were they portrayed to children and in the arts and newspapers?
The perception of Chinese, during the time of the Exclusion Act, really negative. Chinese were portrayed as sort of animals, like rats almost. They were portrayed as eating rats and primitive. They weren't sort of given their own individual identities. They were all seen as like one sort of mass race that was undifferentiated, very homogenous race, and people who were, engaging all kinds of illegal, illicit activities, and and this was all painted to make people think, okay, these people are not Americans.
Tell me more about the sense of community that the Chinese established amongst one another in Chinatown.
Yeah, so the mostly men in Chinatown at a certain point, they gathered in places like this, a general store. There used to be many of these in Chinatown. Now there are none. And these general stores were places that, men would come and gather and hang out. They would drink tea. They would talk and kind of rest and relax. And these spaces were also places where you could get your mail delivered to. You can get translation services. You can get medical help. Some of these places sold herbal remedies. So businesses, places like these general stores were really important as far as gathering places for men, and because they serve so many different kinds of functions, they became very natural places for social gatherings. So general stores. The reason why we have a recreation of a general store here is to emphasize for people that, that this is very specific to the Chinese American community. In the West, Chinese people were driven out of many communities, and they weren't made to feel welcome. So a lot of them sort of came eastward, looking for manufacturing jobs and other work. And that's kind of the story of, at least Chinatowns and Chinese communities in the East Coast and in New York City. That's definitely a legacy.
Hi, I'm Jen Jade, and I love What's Eating Harlem.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
TGIF. Can you imagine 30 million people walking around sexually frustrated because they can't get to their porn?
You're looking at one right now. I'm gonna say this.
Every weekday.
I'll never live in Texas again. It's the worst.
What's your favorite porn, Armand?
Oh, I'm not getting into that. My God.
On Fox Soul.
Now, what's yours?
And listen, don't judge me, okay? Massage porn.
That's boring now. Give me a good three-way gang.
Oh, I knew it was gonna come out.
Yes, yes.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the sisterhood of women in tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
My mom wanted my life to be better than what she had as a kid. When I became a mom myself, I feel like my whole world changed. You don't have to be a climate scientist to want to protect the earth. You always want the next generation to have something better than what you had.
You can go ahead. Ooh, I really don't care. Ooh, you can go ahead.
I'm here with Miss Lana Turner, a historian in Harlem culture, and she's giving us all of the knowledge in a special segment we're calling Renaissance to Renaissance, covering the beginning to what we now know and call our beloved Harlem. Here we're sitting with Miss Lana Turner as she takes us on the journey of our special series, Renaissance to Renaissance, covering all the important facts of the Harlem Renaissance. Miss Turner, can you tell me, when was Harlem approximately founded?
Well, Harlem actually is the second community, or the second village, after the founding of Lower Manhattan. So when you think about New Amsterdam, from New Amsterdam, the second place to be established is Harlem. And so if we look at around 1656 or 1658, Harlem is its own village. And the idea is, and it's on its own village because it's at between 110th Street to about 125th Street on the East River.
Now that's something that's a little hard for me to imagine because I know Harlem is being so further extended north.
Yeah.
So what did that actually look like?
Well, so what you'd have to imagine, first of all, is that Lower Manhattan really is a village. There's farmland, there are pigs running around, there are people in all kinds of places, and you've got, high society, low society, you've got everything going on at one time.
Now, taking it from that period, and let's just fast forward to, say, about 1900s.
Okay.
What's taking place now?
Okay. So let me give you an idea of what's happening in Harlem as a geography, because that will help get you to the 1900s. Okay. So there are two things. We have to talk almost like a split screen.
Okay.
Let's think about Harlem and what's going on in Harlem as we know it. In 1775, the fathers that be did a survey of what they considered Harlem. I bet you will be a little surprised to know what Harlem was considered in 1775. Can you guess?
I have no idea, but I'm definitely intrigued.
Okay. Harlem in 1775 was considered from 74th Street and the East River on a diagonal through what you would think of as Central Park to 125th Street and the Hudson River. Everything north of that was considered Harlem, and everything south of that line was considered New York.
So they were two separate entities?
Well, they were, because Harlem was its own village.
And who was inhabiting the village now in the 1900s?
Well, by the time we've got to skip a little bit more and fill in a little bit more information before we get to the 1900s. I'm getting you there with the split screen. So in any event, so if I'm going to move up a little quicker, let's get to the moment at which the English are mad because George Washington has defeated them. And in their anger, they have burned the village of Harlem. They have just left it in smolders. That happens, it takes a couple of decades for Harlem to become the beginnings of what you know of buildings being built. How does that happen?
That's all the time we have for now. But join us next time on What's Eating Harlem. See you uptown.
Yeah. Me and you taking flight on this electric ride. World sees us tonight. We're lightning bolts in the sky, flashing with thunder, and it's beautiful all over, yeah. Let me feel vibrations going through my system, send shockwaves to me.